Disclosure Day, a film that will spark many conversations from multiple perspectives. That is what I'll be getting into today in this nerdy review. Spoilers ahead. What's good people? Welcome back to the channel here on Crewboy Productions. My name is BK with the Silly, Nerdy, and Wordy podcast. And this is episode 119, Disclosure Day, a nerdy review. And I'll be talking about this film. What's going on, everyone? I hope all of you are doing very well out there, having a good day, a good week, a good summer so far in 2026. And glad to be back with you. So I'll be talking about this new Disclosure Day film that is directed by Steven Spielberg. The story is written by Steven Spielberg. The screenplay is written by David Coep. It stars Emily Blunt, Josh O'Connor, Colin Domingo, Colin Firth, and many others. So that's what we're talking about today. And overall, I enjoyed this film. This was attention-grabbing, thought-provoking. It was entertainment. It was informative. Maybe a little bit sometimes hard to watch with the treatment of the aliens in this. There are spoilers ahead. Of course, I'll be talking about the story stuff as well as different departments, the craft of this and how this was done and what I noticed from different departments within the context of this film, which I had a great time with. Now, overall, the story, I'm not going to go beat by beat. I guess you could say that if you ever wondered if there are other things out there besides, humans, if we are alone or not alone, this film explores that in terms of aliens and the Area 51 and all those things and what's out there and those visions and things we see. Of course, that information and that type of thing is out there with the whole UAP stuff and all of that, which I'm not going to get into, but of course, you're welcome to search and get into that if you want to. But within the context of this film, it was an interesting start of this film, considering what the material that was covered in this film, the way it started with the wrestling match, and the way the camera was placed in terms of the wrestling, like beating down his opponent with his foot. Ultimately, that the wrestling match was just a meeting location that took place there in public, which is smart. But the way it started, and so there is an organization within the context of this movie. The organization is called Wardex Corporation, which essentially is keeping this information in terms of aliens and the technology away from the public in coordination with the U.S. government, again, with the context within this film. And they are meeting with Josh O'Connor's character, which is Dr. Kellner. He was working for this organization, but he gets to a certain point and he sees footage, and then he decides this is wrong and people need to know about this. And then he goes on a run and links up with someone else that used to work for that organization that wants to disclose this information to the public. And then the story goes on from there. Eventually, we get to Emily Blunt's character, which is Margaret Fairchild. Of course, we all have seen the trailer where Emily's character is doing the weather, and then she starts to speak in the tongues in that language that she does. And so we do get to that point and see what leads up to that. Of course, Emily is with her boyfriend. They're in their apartment. A bird flies in. She looks at it, looks into her eyes, her soul, and then eventually she gets to her news station. She has a moment with a cop and tells him things that he was not expecting to come from her. And then she gets to the station. She gets prepped. She's really late, almost late. And then as she's getting ready, she starts speaking Korean to someone that will be on another segment before she gets on and starts doing the weather. She starts to do the weather, and then, of course, the way she starts to speak happen. The story goes on from there. The situation where she was seeing the bird was sparked for an eventual flashback that we see from her as a kid that I guess was locked and then unlocked when that happens. One thing right away, the languages that Emily Blunt's character had to speak, that Margaret had to speak, different languages in terms of Korean, there was some Russian, there was another type of language. So I don't know if she was privy to, in terms of already spoke these languages prior to filming this, or maybe she hasn't. But of course, if not, then that is extra prep work that Emily Blunt had to do in addition to learning her lines, learning to speak these different languages for these brief scenes that she had to do it in. So that was a new or something else that she had to do as well. And I will say, once we get to the eventual reveal of the aliens and the footage, the treatment of them, at times, I know it's within the context of the film, but that was a little bit hard to watch, even though it is a movie, it is entertainment, but still was a little bit difficult to watch. And I'm not going to go in any particular order. I'll just be talking about story points and technical things. Just like I'm going to jump right to the end of the movie. The choice to end the film, the way they ended the film, I really loved how they did that. And I had an inkling that they were going to do that, as, again, this is a spoiler review, as the aliens are brought to the news station and they start to talk to Margaret and Dr. Kellner. And then Emily Blunt's character goes back on screen, back live again. She starts to talk, credits roll to black. And as soon as that was happening, I kind of felt like they're going to end the movie right there as soon as she says a few words. And that's what happened. I think that was a great choice, a great way to end the movie, leave it open to interpretation, to spark that conversation amongst many friends and families and coworkers and colleagues. So a really great way on how this movie ended. And as the movie ended, and as I stayed to watch the credits, as I've been doing that lately, it was a pleasant surprise to see that John Williams was the composer for this film. And that was just pretty cool to see. Of course, John Williams has composed many, many films for Steven Spielberg. So this is nothing new. This is probably the 15th, 20th, or however many Steven Spielberg films he has scored. So pretty cool to see that. Another thing that I saw with the credits is that the sound design was done by Skywalker Sound. Of course, Skywalker Sound comes from Lucasfilm, comes from George Lucas. And as I was prepping for this episode, Skywalker Sound was originally named Sprocket Systems back in 1975 before the name Skywalker Sound became. But the sound designer for this Disclosure Day film, his name is Gary Rydstrom. He has been with Skywalker Sound since 1975, I believe, and he's done a lot of sound design for Steven Spielberg and Lucasfilm for Star Wars. So he has that connection, that friendship. But specifically, what I want to say is George Lucas has the great relationship with Steven Spielberg. I think recently it's come out that Lucas had screened a rough cut of the original Star Wars film for Steven Spielberg and other people. And so they've been friends for a long time. So using Skywalker Sound with that friendship, that working relationship came into play with the sound designer, as well as everyone else on that sound design team. So just a cool thing there that I noticed with the credits. Now, in terms of the film, I want to get back to some story things as well as a technical thing. Two things. This film also, as I mentioned, it stars Colin Domingo and Colin Firth. And one of the things that I really enjoyed was the scene between Hugo and Noah, which is the leader of the Wardex organization that wants to keep the information from the public. But the scene between Colin Domingo's character and Colin Firth's character, when the two of them are together, speaking together, Colin Firth's character, Noah, he's doing this technique called a dive. getting into someone's head to be able to speak to them. You can relate to what was happening in Star Wars: The Last Jedi when Rey and Kylo Ren was speaking. The way they were speaking, that's kind of similar to what was happening here with this. But I say that the scene between the two of them, I enjoyed. The camera work, they were in person, so to speak, when they were doing this dive interaction. But the writing in this scene, the screenplay, the camera work, the execution, and the choices by the actors in this particular scene, I just really enjoyed. In terms of the dialogue, what was provided, it was so well written and well executed in this scene between Colin Domingo and Colin Firth's character, between Hugo and Noah. I enjoyed it. And it's the same thing with Josh O'Connor and Emily Blunt's character, with Dr. Kellner and Margaret's character, the way they were interacting in the scene with the two of them together. And the scene I'm talking about is when Margaret is having her panic attack. I believe at that point, they're on the train and she's having the panic attack there. And then Josh O'Connor, Dr. Kellner's character, helps to calm her, but the choices, the acting choices that was happening between the two of them, the camera work that was happening between the two of them, the dialogue, just that whole interaction, that scene right there, I really enjoyed the choices that were made and how that was portrayed, the final product that we got to see. That scene work, that partner work right there between the two of them, I enjoyed. Same with Colin Domingo and Colin Firth's character, the scene work between those two separate scenes with the four of them and the two of them respectfully. Those two scenes, just great scene work, choices, camera work, writing, all of that. Really, really enjoyed those moments there in those two separate scenes. And then as I move on, one of my most favorite scenes, I would say, probably of this entire film, considering how with the material that's being covered, this is probably more of a nerd thing, but the control room scene, when we eventually get to the point where Dr. Kellner is going to start uploading all of the files to the server into the networks, and eventually they will go live. But what I would say is the controlled chaos that was happening with the director and the producers and the executive producers when all the files eventually got uploaded. The way that scene was coordinated and it was going in terms of how newsrooms actually work, in terms of them going to, hey, go to NBC on this, let's go to Fox, let's go to CNN, let's go to BBC, let's go to CBS. The way all of that was happening, I really enjoyed it. Just seeing all that technical stuff come together, it was really well done, as if we were in an actual newsroom, and it felt and you believed it. And I feel like the main reason why we felt, well, at least why I felt it was believable, because they had people that have done that before, that have been in the trenches before in real life with real news anchors, with real news TV stations. They had people there on set to teach them or to guide them, to show them how to do things. And so there are two people that are on this crew that I want to highlight specifically, that are actual people that work for NBC Universal. When I say NBC Universal, if you don't know, that includes USA Network, Telemundo, and other channels. But the news consultants that are credited here per IMDb, first I want to start off with Mark Greenstein. Mark Greenstein. He is a senior vice president in creative production and operations for NBC Universal. He has been with NBC Universal for nearly 30 years per LinkedIn. I actually looked them up. And so they had him credited on this film, working to help get that particular scene right, as well as what was happening outside of the control room. He's been in the trenches looking at the roles that he's had previous to being in this executive role. They also had another news consultant there that has done the type of work that you saw in that control room, and her name is Amador. Jackie Amador. She is currently the Vice President of Production and Technical Operations and News. She has been with NBC Universal for about 30 years, coming up very soon. Mark has been there for nearly 30 years, about 25, 26 years or so. The two of them were hired to be on this Disclosure Day movie to make sure things are done and said in the right way in that control room, in the newsroom, as well as things that were happening in the actual studio, with things happening before they go live, with the people on the headset, going live at the desk, with the makeup and all of that stuff, the controlled chaos that was happening before they go live. So those two people played a very important role. So I wanted to shout them out, and I wanted to look them up and see. They have been with NBC Universal for a very long time. And so having the two of them there just made that scene all the more important, more impactful for me, that I really enjoy. Another thing within the context of that scene, as the information was being revealed about the aliens, as well as the footage that was being seen, a performance that I want to shout out there. She had a limited screen time, but once she came on, she was on for the last, let's say, 20 to 30 minutes or so. But the NBC News anchor, which is portrayed by Courtney Grace, when she was the one that was doing the voiceover, after Margaret went live and said what she said, then it went to the NBC News anchor, which is portrayed by Courtney Grace. She was pretty much voicing over everything as the footage was coming in live within the context of this film. Courtney Grace, she does have, and I looked her up too per IMDb, and just looking at other things, she does have a journalism and reporting background as well as a producer. Now she is an actress. She has many credits, but she has a reporting background. So for me, it just made me feel something in terms of what she was doing, how she was reacting to it, the acting choices that she was making, the emotion that she was showing there. Obviously, within that, her character is not reading a prompter. She's reacting to those things, and perhaps maybe even they waited to show her the footage for the first time, to do it live, at least for the first take. Maybe that's just me guessing, but it just made it believable because she has that background of journalism. Sometimes when you see art, some things, they make you feel something, an emotion, whether it's a song, whether it's a dance, it makes you cry, happy tears, sad tears, just those type of things. I remember seeing performances and things, and sometimes it just makes you feel something, or a song just evokes something. And so for me, I think this actress, Courtney Grace, within the context of this film, just left a very good impression on me in terms of the context of this movie. Really enjoyed what she did for the limited screen time that she had. So great job by her, again, Courtney Grace, in that moment there. Another thing to talk about, the Wardex Corporation that we see, the organization that's trying to keep the information from the public. I want to shout out the production designer, Adam Stockenhausen. This set was probably my favorite set to see. Just the scope of it, when you walk in, all of the different monitors, and as they were tracking Margaret and tracking Josh O'Connor's character, like that whole set, the design of it, people have to build it, they have to get the things in there, the set decorators, the set buyers, putting all of that stuff in there, designing it and putting it together, and then the actors interacting with it. But I really love that particular set. That was probably my favorite, as well as the control room of the newsroom. So wanted to definitely shout out production designer, again, Adam Stockenhausen, as well as set buyers, set decorators, very important. Another thing was some of the lighting here, which Shout out to the director of photography, cinematographers, which is Patrick Capone, which I believe Patrick was on second unit, and Janusz Kaminski, also another cinematographer. Some of the lighting choices, particularly when they're getting the close-up shots of Emily Blunt's character with the lighting choices multiple times, and then also as they approach the house when the young Margaret character with the deer and the animals or the aliens, when they were approaching the house, the lighting there in the house, the different types of lighting choices that was happening. So shout out to the cinematographers as well as the colorists and the entire art department. I really enjoyed those choices there at different points in the film, the visual effects, the practical effects, particularly when the team that is trying to go against Vortex to get this information out. They're trying to escape their hideout where they're in. They're on that fire truck. They come out. With movie magic, they are not seen, so they're going out. But what we see is the water splashing, some of the crashing happening, and so the visual effects to make that, and then also the practical effects to get the water and everything happening with that. So shout out to the visual effects department, practical effects department with that scene. Really enjoyed just the different filmmaking choices for me in terms of the director's vision, Steven Spielberg's vision, and the execution by all the different departments. I just really enjoyed it, made me really appreciate this film. It was such a great experience in the theater, particularly when the footage of the aliens was being revealed. It felt like everyone in the audience, with the theater that I was in, was just very focused on it, very serious, very just, it grabbed all of our attention. It was very silent in the theater. It was just such a good experience, and just another reason, one of the many reasons why you go to the movie theater to see certain movies. I really, really enjoyed that. But overall, this story was just an interesting, and just made me think about, if something like this were to happen, how would we react, and just having this information out there. But this is ultimately a film. It is for entertainment purposes, but it does make you think as well. And again, as I said at the top, to spark conversations amongst different circles in work and home and schools and just all around. But I believe that is all I wanted to say about this film. I enjoyed it. I think it's definitely Blu-ray worthy for me. I would want to see how things were done and executed in the different departments, whether it's storyboard, visual effects, writing choices, and actor choices, and that action scene with the train and how that was done, and the rigging of that, and all of that stuff. It was a good film for me. I enjoyed it. I liked it. I hope it does really well box office wise. We'll see, of course, June. It has so many things. And of course, we have July coming up. So if you like those type of nerdy reviews about films in theaters as well as streaming, live Broadway shows as I see it live and in person, and TV coverage and industry insights, subscribe to the channel here on Crew Boy Productions, and you can follow and subscribe to the Silly, Nerdy, and Wordy podcast. It is free, and I'm on TikTok at Nerdy Podcaster 124 as the shorts from these full episodes go on to TikTok as well. So follow there, and that is all. I hope all of you have great vibes for the rest of your day and the rest of your week. And until next time, we will talk soon.